Intro of awesome. I
Is
love
that what you're calling it now?
No, that's what they called it in the chat room. The
Chrono said.
Intro
nice.
of awesome.
I don't think Chrono's been with us for a live show yet, so thank you for that.
Welcome to the live show. My name is Benjamin Higginbotham. With me is the beautiful, lovely, wonderful, and talented Carrie Ann Higginbotham. We are the Spacevidcasters. We're going to be talking extremely fast during the news section because, quite frankly, there is just a ton of news. For those of you in the United States, today is the 40th anniversary of the launch of Apollo 11. Awesome. This is the first time, well, not today, on July 20th or the 21st, if you go by Coordinating Universal Time. That's when we actually first stepped foot on the moon. But this is the moment when that Saturn V rocket launched, and
the whole world was watching.
And the whole world was watching. And to that end, you can watch and replay that too. If you go to wechoosethemoon.com, you can actually see video. How would you word this? Not really video. It's actually
it's almost a recreation with computer animation.
Yeah, check this out. So it's pretty much like this is it. It's CGI-ish, right? And you can actually follow along in real time where they're at in their mission. So if you go to wechoosethemoon.com right now, it will bring you to where the crew capsule is at this moment in time, and you can follow it all the way down until they actually step foot on and land on the moon.
It's very cool, and I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that wechoosethemoon.org forwards to we choose the moon. Wechoosethemoon.org forwards to wechoosethemoon.com. I could be wrong. Ben is checking it right now because I had seen both of them being tweeted out, and so maybe it doesn't actually forward.
They're the exact same thing.
They are the exact same thing. So if you missed that,
just go to .com. .com's cooler.
It is. wechoosethemoon.com, all one word. It's very, very cool. And it is a little bit interactive. Once everything has kind of gone through, once they've done the landing on the moon and whatnot, you will be able to go back and see the entire process again. Right now, it's sort of like, this is exactly where they are right now.
If you were living 40 years ago, this
Correct.
this is the coverage you get to see, and they have the audio from 40 years ago streaming in real time too, which is kind of what you're hearing in the background, not quite up to date. Moving right along, STS-127 has finally lifted off. Check it out. Here's what it looked like.
Go for main engine start. We have main engine start. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Endeavour, completing Kibo and fulfilling Japan's hope for an out-of-this-world space laboratory.
Houston, Endeavour, roll program.
Roger, roll, Endeavour.
And if you'd like to see the full video from T-minus 2 minutes all the way up through external tank separation, which is just a little bit past MECO, you can do that by going to spacevidcast.com, and you got a big old STS-127 button right there.
It's actually kind of hard to miss.
It is kind of hard to miss. Finally, seriously, jeez.
And it's in HD.
Gup delay, weather delay, weather delay.
I would like to say very quickly, the reason that, remember the good old full power for full science. And this was, lifting Kibo's hope, something, something. Kibo in Japanese means hope. So that's where that was coming from.
That's why they say hope.
Exactly.
STS-127 did lift off, but it did not lift off without issue. There have been quite a few foam impact, or at least impact marks, be it from foam or ice. Check these pictures out. They're actually, we've got 3 pictures, but there are quite a few. We grabbed these right from NASA's high-definition feed from our C-band dish. There's one of them. There's another one that will come up in just a moment. These are pretty big events, and there have been rumors going around saying that NASA is grounding the shuttle fleet because of these, because the impacts happened not in locations that they were expecting. That doesn't actually sound like that's what's really going on.
Unfortunately, some of the mainstream media, again, has just decided, they heard one sentence, and they decided to run with an entire story of God knows what, NASA shutting down, the space shuttle is, to die, whatever. That's not what's going on.
Right. As Carbon mentioned in the chat room, they're not grounding the fleet. They're just going to study and see what happened. The foam didn't fall off from a location that they thought it should fall off on, and that's a point of concern, but they're not grounding the space shuttle fleet. Regardless, if they do decide to ground it in the future, or if anything causes an additional delay, the end of the space shuttle program is still, at this time, 2010.
No matter what.
No matter what. Now, that could change with the Augustine Commission. That can change with some sort of Senate hearing, blah, 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 blah. But that, at this time, has not happened yet. So whether they delay, not delay, ground the fleet, not ground the fleet, whatever, 2010 is the end of the space shuttle program. So just keep that in mind. Moving into private space travel, because private space travel has a little bit more control over what they do, and because our guest tonight, kind of one of the cool GLXP teams, we'll get to that in a little bit though, SpaceX has actually launched, I skipped an entire story. That's all right, we'll just skip it for now. Okay. SpaceX successfully launched Falcon 1 Flight 5. Here's some video of that.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Ignition.
T0, +1, +2, +3. We have liftoff of the SpaceX Falcon 1 carrying Kazakhstan satellite for ATSB. Falcon 1 has cleared the tower.
Vehicle's begun moving downrange.
Vehicle's currently traveling 27 meters per second at 0.2 kilometers above the pad.
Power system's nominal.
First stage propulsion's nominal.
Guidance nominal. Approaching Mach 1.
Okay, we've currently gone over the horizon. We are experiencing some losses in telemetry, but vehicle has completed shutdown.
And there you go. You can actually watch the entire video. And by the way,
that was easy.
You can watch the entire video on spacevidcast.com. Click on Falcon 1 Flight 5. We joke because we had our easy button, so we used that.
And we've just been so tired.
we were like, woohoo!
So late, so many days in a row for all of these different launches that by the end we were like, that'll be funny. And it's probably not funny anymore. Yeah. However, we thought it was.
It is, and you know what? Frankly, they made it look really easy, and that's kudos to SpaceX for doing that, because this is one of the hardest things humans do, and they made it look easy. So,
one thing I want to point out is that for the Falcon 1 Flight 4,
yes,
they did put a dummy.
They had a dummy payload. Falcon 1 Flight 5 is the first time they successfully got their payload into orbit.
There you go. That's what
they
I wanted to say.
They've had payloads before, but that was on Flight 3, I believe.
Others that have crashed. This is the first successful payload into orbit flight.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Did it actually reach orbit,
that is my understanding, yes.
I believe it did. So, there you go. Mars 500 has completed, although, for those who don't know, the Mars 500 is where we're going to take a bunch of people, six humans,
yes,
lock them up,
yes,
and see how they do for 500 days straight, which is the estimated amount of time that you'd need to be locked up to do a trip to Mars, stay there for about a week, and come on back. And so we want to see if they're going to go just absolutely crazy. And so we did the first test, which was actually not 500 days at all.
No. It was, what, 130
like 130 something like
days. That. But at the same time, you don't want to. The thing is that they are being locked in, and while they are being monitored for emergencies, they are really not getting much of anything other than some basic communications that they would need. But other than that, there really isn't a reason to unlock the door until the entire experiment is done, if that follows at all. So it's interesting to me that they would, I think it's a good idea that they put these guys in for a shorter amount of time to make sure that they wouldn't rip each other apart first.
Right, 3 stages of testing. Test here,
Correct.
Make sure you can do it. Test on the moon, make sure you can do it at a slightly shorter or longer distance, 3 days, and then once you do that, go onto the moon. At least that's what I think. The Mars 500 actual 500 test, which is actually 520, so I don't know why they don't call it the Mars 520, will be happening sometime in 2010, and that's where they'll do the full 520 days locked up. Hope they don't go crazy, because when you think about it, that's like almost 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, not quite, but
very,
I mean,
it's interesting.
It's more like a year and a half, I suppose, but that's a long, long time.
Sounds more like NASCAR when you say Mars 500.
Wow. When we return, we're going to be coming back with a Google Lunar X Prize team Omega Envoy. Jason Dunn will be joining us. That's going to be awesome. And check out the break. You guys helped us be the second most popular video on YouTube again for the second week in a row. We made the top 5. Check that out. We'll be right back.
Hello and welcome to the Crow River Coffee Company in Watertown, Minnesota. Situated on the bank of the beautiful Crow River, we offer espresso drinks, delicious food, live music, bulk beans, and artisan items. You can see us at crowrivercoffee.com. Thanks!
The countdown has started for a space mission unlike anything ever attempted. Not a government, but a privately funded team prepares to make history.
5, main engines are go. 3, 2, solid booster ignition. We have liftoff.
The X Prize Foundation has joined forces with Google, the world's largest search engine, to create the biggest international prize ever. And it's open to private enterprise from any nation. $30 million in prize money is offered to the first 2 privately funded teams to land and rove a robotic craft on the lunar surface.
Earth's offshore island, the Moon, can become our greatest asset. It could help provide our world with abundant resources and clean, affordable, limitless energy. Much of the lunar soil is silicon. In the future, the silicon could be mined and used to build huge solar power satellites. These satellites could be deployed to capture clean solar energy for the Earth, each one capable of powering a large city. Part of the prize purse includes bonuses for teams that achieve extraordinary performance.
We're coming up on the crater rim.
The Google Lunar X Prize is designed to kickstart Moon 2.0, a revolution in space to benefit all humanity. Today, the Google Lunar X Prize ignites our imagination, allows us all to participate, and challenges private enterprise to take us back to the moon. And this time, we're planning to stay. Moon 2.0. Join the revolution.
During break, the chat room went a little wild. You guys were having some fun, so we're using our official Spacevidcast cowbell to put an end to that. Yeah, it's loud, isn't it?
It's very loud. Lord,
you know what this show needs is more cowbell.
No,
Oh, yeah.
we have enough cowbell now. Enough
more cowbell.
All right, y'all, knock it off. Thank you. This actually came from Corkspin. You know, because he likes to send us all kinds of things for some reason.
And we're just stocking up. We got the mug from Welder. We've got the cowbell from Corkspin, and from Caffeinated we've got.
That was easy.
All right. You know, we do this show every week from the Crow River Coffee Company. They're gracious enough to host us, and we are not very good guests at all. We just leave our stuff scattered everywhere, and we're like, oh, we're coming in tomorrow because they scrubbed. Oh, guess we're coming in the next day because they scrubbed.
Yeah, and by the way, we're going to be here before you open or after you close. We're just going to live here.
We're terrible, terrible guests.
Absolutely.
So certainly help support them by going to crowrivercoffee.com and picking up our coffee of the month. And this month, that is Espresso Blend. And you can get that. And by purchasing Crow River Coffee's Espresso Blend, A, it makes you a better person.
Well, yeah.
B, it makes you more attractive to the opposite sex. I'm not sure if you knew that.
Oh, yeah. It's built right into the coffee.
It is actually built into the coffee. And 3, AB3, it actually...
I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh, no, now do it.
No, just... AB3.
Yep.
R.
AB3R. You know, it helps Crow River Coffee, which then gives them more incentive to help us so that you guys can get fantastic high-definition coverage. Dare I say, best coverage on the internet of space shuttle launches. I'm just going to throw that out there. Best coverage on the internet.
Most likely.
Speaking of best coverage on the internet, right before one of the STS-127 launch attempts, scrub attempts, mind you, we were covering Omega Envoy's attempt to move their lunar rover from the Arctic Circle, and they were in Orlando, and that was awesome. And so, as a special treat to everyone, we have brought on Jason Dunn from Omega Envoy, which is a Google Lunar X PRIZE team. Jason, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, so glad to be here. How are you doing?
We're doing fantastic. How about yourself? How was the test run?
It's going great. I mean, thanks a lot for putting us on there. Obviously, that was awesome. We that was a good test run. The first day, we just tried to do some very basic things. Well, first off, I mean, we have our rover out there, our rover 2.0 prototype, just to demonstrate some capabilities of what our rover that we send to the moon needs to do. So basically, we're just testing the capabilities to, one, control the rover remotely from our headquarters here in Orlando, Florida, and then also to just prove that we can take video, drive the distance of 500 meters that is required for the X Prize. So we're trying different things. We're learning as we go. The first test was very successful. We were able to control it, take video, take our first picture of the hab, which was very important. We drove the rover out, turned it around, and looked at the crew hab and took a picture. And then each day we're trying new things. We're doing little tests here and there. And I think I talked to the team. I'm pretty sure it's either tomorrow or the next day we should be running again. And we have that streaming on Ustream on our Omega Envoy Ustream page.
You know, Rev in the chat room has just asked, how are you controlling your rover remotely?
All right, so what we're doing right now isn't necessarily what we would do for our actual rover on the moon. But what we've done is we've teamed up with the University of Central Florida DARPA team. And what they've done is they've set up the rover to actually be controlled through the internet. So the camera and all the servos on the controlling the rover motors and the steering and everything is all sent via Wi-Fi to a laptop actually in the crew hab, which then we can connect to from our headquarters and control it. So although that's not exactly how we would do it when we get to the moon, it's still proving some of our capabilities. And one thing is that what we plan on doing is having a lander and then a rover that leaves the lander. So the current plan is have the rover talk to the lander and the lander talks at home. So you could kind of imagine the crew hab being like a big lander for the rover. So in that respect, we're still having the rover talk to this big lander communication device that then talks back to us at headquarters.
Would you still use Wi-Fi on the moon then, from the lander to the rover, or would you use a completely different technology at that point?
I am not completely sure. We have tossed around the idea of Wi-Fi because that technology is really advanced, and for the distances that we need to travel, Wi-Fi may do the trick. So it may be a very simple solution, actually.
So you would probably be the first Wi-Fi network on the moon. if that were the case.
So Starbucks will be going after that, right?
You'll have to pay for the access point when you get up there. Enter your credit card before you can move your rover.
Oh, sad.
The missing link here is between Earth and the lander then, because have you been able to simulate that? You've got a 6-second delay between the Earth and the Moon. Someone in the chat room, I'm sure, will correct me if I'm wrong. But you've got extra delay, and that delay is not really good for internet. TCP/IP is not going to like that. So what are you going to do?
Well, boy, I wish I was the right person to answer this question. We have our communication guys working on this. There's a lot of alternatives to this, to how to do this. And to tell you the truth, we haven't really found the best one yet. But, I mean, that's why we're doing these tests right now out in the Arctic.
By the way, it's corrected. It was 3 seconds, which means it's 3 seconds. So 6 seconds round trip. That's how I'm going to say that I was still correct.
Yeah.
So that way I don't look like a complete idiot, right? 6 seconds round trip. That's what that is.
3 up, 3. Yeah, no,
exactly.
That works for me.
The room is asking. So you're going to get this lander and then your rover on the moon, but how are you going to do that? Because the Google Lunar X Prize, you are not required to launch it yourself. You just have to do the rover part of it. So how are you going to launch, and who are you going to go with?
So basically, the way the Omega Envoy team sees this prize is basically building a vehicle that can land on the moon is hard enough. Building a rover that can be controlled remotely on the moon is hard enough. So then putting on top of that, trying to build some sort of launch vehicle to get us there would probably be out of the scope of what is possible, at least for our team. So there's a lot of launch providers. Obviously, everybody's throwing up the name SpaceX because they're a preferred partner for the Google Lunar X Prize, and they're also obviously probably the cheapest launch vehicle to get us there. So
all those X people, they stick together.
We've definitely considered SpaceX. I can say that, and what we've done is we've designed our whole mission architecture to basically be flexible, so it can fit into a SpaceX Falcon 1E rocket. It could fit into a Taurus, whatever happens. So we've designed to be flexible, basically.
Let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
You're an interesting team because you're not one of these big, huge teams that has large, huge corporate sponsorships and people from NASA in there. You're a group of students. You're almost like the SEDS of the Google Lunar X Prize. So describe to me how your team got founded and who you guys are.
All right. That's funny you mentioned SEDS because at least for me, and I know a lot of other people on the team, SEDS is the reason not only that we founded our team, but because we're so motivated to even be doing this. And I thought it was neat. You had Grant on last week talking about SEDS, and I thought it was funny that I was going to come out. And I knew that at some point today I would have to start talking about SEDS because without SEDS, there'd be no way that I would be as motivated about space exploration and basically making sure that we colonize outer space within my lifetime. So
awesome.
That's what makes me motivated, and I know a lot of other people on the team motivated about the X Prize and about Omega Envoy. And definitely, Omega Envoy isn't basically what we see as the end result. We know that getting to the moon is important, and proving that private industry can get there is important. But we definitely see way beyond that. Building up the infrastructure to go back to the moon, and then obviously Mars and beyond is probably the more important goal than the moon alone. So going back, how did the team get started? Definitely I and some other people were very interested in the Google Lunar X Prize, and actually when I first heard about it, I thought that would be really neat to have a team, but there's no way that I'm going to find other people at the University of Central Florida or even the Central Florida area that would want to start this team. And then it was probably almost exactly a year ago, right around this time last year, that I found out that another student at University of Central Florida, Ruben Nunez, was trying to start a team. So I thought, man, this guy's crazy.
That's awesome.
I'm going to go check out, what's going on. I went to the first meeting. I saw the first picture of the rover, and it was this horrible, horrible design for a rover. Like,
yes!
You could show it to
I'm sold.
A kindergarten kid, and
I want in on that.
I said, we gotta fix that. No, so I know Ruben likes to tell the story the way he got the idea to start a team was that he was flying a zero gravity research flight, and afterwards he, one way or another, learned about the Google Lunar X Prize. I think they were there at a little ceremony or a place where they the students talked about their research. So that's how he got involved, and then luckily I found out, and then actually it was sometime in August that we announced that we were going to compete, and we announced it at the Kennedy Space Center. So
nice.
Yeah, that's how it started.
How are you going to compete against the big boys? Not that anyone in the Google Lunar X Prize is necessarily big, right?
The best part is that Next Giant Leap is in the room.
Like, wait, what giant big sponsors? Right. Yeah. No, I know, and which is a valid point, right? I mean, what big sponsors? We're in an industry where a good chunk of the money comes in or out of NASA one way or another, and it's just kind of, this is that bleeding edge thing. So how are you guys going to fund this? You talked about possibly using SpaceX. Well, even that, I'm going to use round numbers and make up numbers. That's probably a $10 million launch. That's not going to be something that you can be like, oh, well, here, I'll write you a check.
The nice thing about this team, though, because they are so young, they don't have families that they need to take care of and all of those. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
so they're going to fleece their families for money?
No. They can be, they're at a great time, they're at a great age where they can be more flexible with those sorts of things as opposed to people who have established lives and other stuff to take care of.
While this is true, we're still talking about it. I'm just going to round up to like $10 million just to launch this silly thing.
I get it. Poor college students eating ramen. I understand.
Yeah. So how can these poor college students eating ramen launch a...
They're very motivated.
Exactly. How are you going to launch?
Well, okay, I'm glad Carrie Ann brought up that point that we really are at the perfect time in our lives to be doing this. And as hard as it will be, and it already has been, to be students starting, first of all, a nonprofit corporation. We started Earthrise Space Incorporated, which is basically the company that's in charge of the Omega Envoy project. And we started the Earthrise Space to, one, get students involved more directly with space research and space projects in a very hands-on sort of way. And the underlying goal of Earthrise Space is to really help Florida maintain its edge in the space industry, especially with the private sector really coming into play, and we're seeing it already that Florida is losing that edge. Right. So, yeah, definitely the funding is going to be a hard part of this project, but the way we see it is that, first of all, we are students and we're young and we don't have as much on the line to lose, and also, with that said, the way we're working right now is we're primarily volunteers. So there's a huge amount of at least salary that you can cut out of this project. So when you look at, I know other teams are volunteer too, but if you didn't have to pay a lot of engineers to do this, then that can cut out a huge amount of the money that you need to raise.
For sure.
But we're still working on how to get the huge, seed investments, how we can fund each part of the mission. And I thought it was neat. Today we just saw the Futron Corporation released a study, I'm sure you guys already read this, that predicted a $1.5 billion market for these commercial lunar services. So when you look at it, right now there's Omega Envoy and 18 other teams competing in the Google Lunar X Prize. So there's basically 19 groups of people in the world right now building the infrastructure for this $1.5 billion market. So
right.
One way or another, this market spans from selling services to the government all the way to entertainment. So there's a huge amount of flexibility and room to build a business model. So that's definitely what we're working on, and we don't see it to be a huge problem to figure out the right type of market to raise the money. But definitely when you look at the near term and how do you get that initial money and initial funds to get going, right now we're just taking things small steps. A good example is our Devon Island trip right now. We have our rover prototype out there, and we're just trying to prove small capabilities, small things, one thing at a time that will eventually lead up to the getting the rover to the moon.
So I'm going to be a little bit evil for a moment, if I may.
Just don't answer.
Don't answer me, exactly. You mentioned, bringing business back into Florida, making sure that the private companies don't take away from that, because a lot of them are not launching from Florida, which is a valid point. If you do launch on SpaceX, especially if you go on a Falcon 1, they don't launch from Florida. So wouldn't that kind of contradict the whole helping Florida out thing? Yes! I got him frozen. Look at that. He hung. We'll wait for Skype to get restored.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yay!
Well, actually, that's true. Right now, the Falcon 1E
Wait for it. Hang on. This is why we like Skype.
This is awesome.
Yep. We'll wait just a moment. We may end the show early and bring him on for post-show if we can.
Yes.
Exactly. Their chat room's mentioning epic fail, epic, and then when we're done. Oh!
Connection lost.
Fail.
Sad.
That was easy.
So he got out of that question pretty easily. We'll bring that up in post-show. He said I'm sure he has a really good answer for that, and we'll post the answer in the show notes.
We will.
Sorry, guys. That's part of the fun part of using bleeding edge technology and Skype. You know, first time that's ever happened. On that note, we do have another Skype guest next week. Let's see what happens with that.
Maybe we'll pre-record that one.
You know, in all actuality, it's the bandwidth here, not there.
Yeah.
We have serious bandwidth issues here at the Crow River Coffee Company. But if you bought more coffee, we could drop fiber, and then this wouldn't be a problem. But next week, we have got Michael Potter, who is the director and producer of Orphans of Apollo. It's a movie that you can purchase. I would recommend, if you can, go to orphansofapollo.com, purchase the movie, and
it's cheap. It's like $20 maybe.
$20, and watch it before the show, because we're going to be talking about everything that he saw and everything he did in the movie next week's show. We've got a quick trailer for you. Check it out. Orphans of Apollo.
Go for LOI.
The U.S. government spent billions of dollars going to the moon. They got there, and just as they got there, everybody got color television sets, and they got to the moon. It was pretty well black and white.
1972, Apollo 17, last mission on the moon, and during the Nixon administration, shut it down.
We, as Apollo's children, felt we were Apollo's orphans. We had been left out in the cold.
It was over in the government's minds, but a lot of young kids there, myself included, were ready for what was next.
The right chemistry, the right mix, the right matrix of people, of vision, wealth, courage, a little bit of craziness, a whole lot of craziness, teamed up and said, let's go do something important. Let's change the future.
Walt pulled together an ad hoc group of people that he knew, and it wasn't so much company, it was more kind of entourage.
It was like they came out of a band.
Here we were going to negotiate a deal to open a frontier in a place that felt like a frontier at the time.
Here you had a serious situation to take over the manned space station.
Would you like a space station? Because I think we can get it. We had a mega business plan that was going to grow into probably the biggest business plan ever.
The audacity of leasing a 130-ton space asset and privatizing it is the realm of science fiction.
Pressure was incredible. The Russians were being squeezed hard by the United States government to take the Mir out.
Gus said, you're a doomed man if you do this. They are going to come after you with everything they got.
It's going to be awesome. Michael Bay does not present that. Come on, be nice, Craig. Another fun little ism. We had Google Lunar X PRIZE on. We have GLXP in the room, and in that video you can see
Peter Diamandis.
Yep, who helped found the X PRIZE Foundation and pretty much anything space. He's got his hands in it. It's funny. You see him just like everywhere. It's amazing to watch that guy. That will be next week. We'll have, like I said, Michael Potter on next week's show right here at spacevidcast.com, and we have a live show every week. And that's every Friday, 2 o'clock a.m. Coordinated Universal Time. For those of you in the United States, that's 7 o'clock Pacific Time, 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 9 o'clock Central Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time on Thursday nights. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next week.
That was easy.